Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast. Happy Wednesday. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. Law's here with us, moving the faders, pushing the buttons, recording the file,
Honestly,
and posting it.
Not a good job
today.
I think I cued you as before I turned the music down.
Oh, jeez.
So.
Oh, jeez. Well, that's Wednesday, you know?
Hump day.
No big deal. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. We appreciate you, as always. Make sure you have liked the video. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube page as well. And if you're listening on the podcast, you're the vast majority of our audience, and we appreciate you. Please make sure you are not just listening, but following, subscribing, all that fun stuff. And if you got 30 seconds to do us a kindness, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify would be greatly appreciated to offset some of the people we aggravated last week. So please leave those 5-star reviews if you can. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to finish off your Mailbag Monday questions. We're going to talk about Lukas Reichel's new deal, but we are just about, 20 hours removed from the NHL draft lottery, and that's all I've been thinking about since last night. So let's start there, fellas.
Sure.
How we feeling? Anything changed since we last spoke?
No.
Just my socks and underwear.
All right. Can't say the same, but eventually I'll get there. I will say this. Last night I went back and listened to yesterday's show, which I think was a really good show. We did a good job for once.
Nice little Barry
I was
Horowitz
pretty
there.
sold on Ivan Demidov, and I still am, but I've kind of gotten to the point here with Artyom Levshunov too, where if they take either guy, I'm perfectly content.
There is no wrong answer between the two of them. And, I mean, I think realistically there's still, you could, like we said yesterday, you could make a case for a guy like Caden Lindstrom. Would you be shocked if it's Sam Dickinson or Zeev Buyum? Like, maybe a little bit, but you could also be talked into those guys. But I still think it's as beyond Macklin Celebrini, arguably the second and third best prospects of the draft class and second best forward and best defenseman. You know, when you talk to most draft analysts, it's between Demidov and Levshunov. Like, those guys are like the top tiers of the draft class. So I think either way they go, they both address a need. They both can be looked at as the best available player in the draft class behind Macklin Celebrini. And they're both, I don't know, a year away from being, legitimately talked about as being with the Blackhawks in the NHL. Like, there is no losing unless either of them turn into a bust, knock on wood. There's really no losing the pick depending on where they go.
Yeah, if it's best player available that Kyle Davidson likes to preach, then it's Demidov. I mean, if you want that right-handed defenseman that seems to be able to do it all, then you go with Levshunov. I wouldn't be mad at either one. Like, I would prefer Demidov just because, yes, you got to have solid defense to win. Blackhawks,
You do.
If the cupboard was bare defensively, then that's an easy pick. You have a lot of good young defensemen in your system. Yes, I know. The elusive right-handedness, like the holy grail of hockey, apparently. I understand that. But when you watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, I mean, you've got to have multiple guys who could score. You can't just have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. How's that been working out?
So far, not great, but
you look at
looking better now.
But yeah, because they added some depth, and they have a goaltender now. But you look at a team like the Avalanche. I mean, they've got multiple ways to kill you.
Yeah.
McKinnon, Lehkonen, Rantanen, and they even got depth guys like Miles Wood last night with the overtime goals. Cale Makar. They can pick your poison. You're still going to die a slow death, but you've got to build. You can't just have Connor Bedard,
Right.
And I know a lot of people are worried about, that top line is going to be too small.
That's it's not a thing anymore.
And who says they're attached at the hip? How often did Kane and Taves actually play together? Usually when
early in their career.
Yeah.
But then they got split up.
But once you had the depth.
Because the talent could be spread out.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're building this team correctly, you probably don't play them very often together because you want 2, 3, 4 lines that could score. Just like those Blackhawks teams that won Stanley Cups. They had 4 lines on a nightly basis. One of those lines was going to kill you. You didn't know which one it was until it was too late.
Well, Nikita Kucherov is 5'11", 182.
Yeah, and he plays on a line with Brendan Point, who's also under 6 feet.
And
they do pretty good.
It just look. I know you don't want a team full of little guys, that's for sure. But it's just not. It's not the '90s anymore. It's just that's not how the game is played. It is a skill game. It is a speed game, and smaller players are more effective in this era than they've ever been. And everything you say, Greg, is correct. And like I said, I'm still probably leaning Demidov, but as we look at the depth of the Blackhawks' defensive prospects, which is thick, don't get me wrong, 3C's thick. That's the best kind. Where's the number 1 guy? Is it Korchinski? Maybe. Is it Vlasic? Maybe. But I want a guy that I know can be the best, the leading defenseman on a champion team, and I don't know if that guy's on the roster yet. And look, we all love Seth Jones. Seth Jones is not a number 1 defenseman on a Stanley Cup champion or contender. He's just not. And nothing against him. No, I think it's just facts.
You either have to have 4 Seth Joneses.
That's fine.
Or if you have 1, he's your number 3 or number 4 defenseman.
Yeah.
And I know
on a cup contender.
And you're worried about the right-handed defenseman. Yes, they're hard to get. But here's the thing. If you believe Demidov is the best player available and you want that second dynamic forward to add to Bedard and Nazar and hopefully an Oliver Moore, that's pretty darn good. If all those guys hit their potential, you've got something special brewing. And now you just got to get those right little pieces to complement all that.
Yeah.
You have 2 first-round picks this year.
Yep.
You have 2 first-round picks next year. You can get a damn good right-handed defenseman at number 20, or you can get it with your top pick next year. If you think, and knowing them, they've probably pre-scouted next year's draft. We saw that.
Be smart too.
We saw that 2 years ago when they had number 7 overall, and we were all like, we don't need another defenseman. But they already knew that draft class, 2022, was much deeper defensively or much better at the top defensively than the 2023 draft class. So what'd they do? With 2 of their 3 first-round picks, they went defenseman, Korchinski, Rinzel. Yeah. So if they think next year is better defensively, especially for a right-handed shot, then they'll pass on Levshunov because they know we'll just get that guy next year.
Yeah, you got 2 first-round picks to try and find one of those players.
You've got multiple second-round picks. Yeah. You have a cupboard full of assets that you could just say, screw it. We'll give up the farm and get an established right-handed veteran defenseman in here to be that guy in 2 years.
Could do that too, yeah.
There are plenty of options. The rebuild is not hinged on whether they go forward or defenseman with the number 2 overall pick.
So that's kind of the question is, what is harder to acquire via free agency, via trade, right? A guy that can play on the top line and score, this is a legitimate question. I don't have an answer for you just yet. That or a right-hand defensive, stud 2-way defender. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. That's Kyle Davidson's
difficult
job.
to acquire.
They're both difficult, but
expensive.
Yeah, but I'd say if you're trying to get specifically a top pair right shot defenseman, that narrows down a trade or a free agency market for that player, rather than who's a guy that you could put on the wing that can put up 30, 40 goals. Like you could find guys that do that, not as easily, but I think there's more darts to throw at the board to say, I think we can find one there.
There's probably more options in that regard.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be specifically right side, right hand,
right,
that sort of thing. So I don't know. I really don't think if one of these two is the pick, I'm not going to be upset. Plus, if it's Levshunov, East Lansing isn't that far.
Yeah.
You can go cover some Michigan State games. About a 6-hour drive. I checked it out today.
Yeah, they play Notre Dame.
Yeah, they can play Notre Dame.
They play in Madison.
Sure.
Well, they don't have Minnesota. Minnesota at Michigan State. Could make that trip.
That'd be fun.
Or Michigan State at Minnesota. They're about the same distance.
About equidistant.
Yeah.
Wait, they don't play at Wisconsin ever?
No, they do. There's no one from the Blackhawks playing
Yet.
for Wisconsin.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not yet.
That's true.
73 picks.
Yeah, they had their chance.
If it was up to you, there'd be 6 Badgers drafted this year.
Badgers? Well, we got a poll running on our YouTube channel right now. Who should the Hawks pick, Demidov or Levshunov? Get your votes in, and if I remember, we'll tell you the answer at the end of the show.
Oh, I think we can look
look
ahead to what we did on Twitter
broadcast.
over the last 24 hours. Put up the graphics that we had from yesterday's show. Who would you take, number 2, Demidov or Levshunov? Over 1,200 votes, and it's 2/3 for Ivan Demidov. Again, I mean that pretty much mirrors what our YouTube poll was yesterday.
So far,
after
and right now
after
it's
the
similar.
draft lottery completed, and I think with Demidov, you hear a lot of the only concern is his skating ability. Is it the worst in the class? No. Is it polished? Is it is he just slow? No, he's not slow. He's a powerful skater, and uses it to his advantage. He's a shifty guy. It's just kind of awkward looking. So it's not necessarily that it is a power or a foot speed or agility problem. It's more of a mechanical problem. And I think with an 18-year-old kid, you can fix a mechanical issue with your skating stride.
When you've got the goal scoring ability and the playmaking ability at 18, you're not worried about your skating.
Right.
You're going out there and putting up points.
That's
his job.
Yeah, and it's the way that he's been able to utilize his skating. It doesn't hinder him from being a guy that plays aggressive, actually has a commitment to playing some defense and forechecking and being hard to play against when he doesn't have the puck. It is something that you say, okay, the Blackhawks have a emphasis on you need to be a good skater, but if he doesn't, you don't have the Oliver Moore straight line speed, but you're also not Graham not tripping over himself.
Right.
That's a deep cut right there. Yeah.
Liked it. That was good. We got some super chats to get to, and we're going to get to those after the break. But first, Greg, it is mighty, mighty bright out today.
It is.
What do you recommend, my friend?
It's a wonderful day out
I
there.
recommend some Shady Rays. Get ready for the sunny season ahead and all the great Blackhawk wins that are getting built right now with quality shades. Built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Damn.
Their shades have durable frames and
people.
crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all your outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a style in Blackhawks colors. I bet you they do.
Mm-hmm.
I love Shady Rays. I've been a customer and believer in the product long before they sponsored our show, long before CHGO was even a thing.
Before it was
I
cool.
was buying Shady Rays. I love them. They're my favorite sunglasses in the world. They're the only sunglasses brand I wear to just love the way they look. Crystal clear. They just make everything sharper. I put them on when I drive, even when it's kind of cloudy out.
Yeah.
It just makes everything clearer. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you don't love your shades, But you can exchange them for a new pair. I don't think anybody's ever done that. You can return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. And exclusively right now, for our listeners only, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the promo code CHGO, and you're going to get 35% off all polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Damn,
people.
That's a lot of
stars.
people.
That's
and a lot of stars.
That's more people
exactly.
than we used to have.
It is. It's the CHGO bump. It's a real thing.
Well, break out those Shady Rays and head to the favorite ballpark in the area or around the country with our friends at Game Time, an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. They make getting tickets faster and easier, and the prices on the Game Time app will actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Checking in on the Chicago American League team versus the Cleveland American League team. Wait, they're MLB sponsor. We could say it. White Sox and Guardians, $5 will get you in the building.
Nice. It's a good price.
Wow, it's a pricier game than usual for the White Sox.
$4 too much.
But plenty of seats available.
$15.
And did I see Law $7 for Pirates at Cubs? Did I see that correctly? On the old Game Time app?
Must
there?
be a seat behind the
If you hit
pole.
the back button.
Hold on, let's go.
You can sit
back
behind me,
again
that's fine.
there.
Thought you were Greek.
Yeah, $7.
Yeah, on Friday the
Nice.
17th.
Not bad.
Friday
$7
afternoon,
to get it.
$7.
Yeah, I mean that's a Friday afternoon game. Come on,
Not bad.
visit the 120 club with Cody
Yeah,
and
wave
Braggs.
to them in the bleachers.
I might jump on that deal myself.
We
might
got a
take
show.
that day off work.
Mario's already off. You can't do it.
You
No,
can do it
that's
by
on the
yourself.
17th. This Friday I'm off.
Mario's
Wow,
off this
that's
Friday.
next Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will be at Wrigley though.
Oh.
You going to the game?
I'm breaking in.
Oh, nice. You don't have to with Game Time. You could stay out of prison and get in for $7.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
in
lot
that game
cheaper
against the
than
Pirates. They've got last-minute deals, flash deals, zone deals. Easy to find and buy the MLB tickets and for every kind of seat in your area. And they got views from your seat, too, so you do know if there is a large pole, not me, in front of you. They've got the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. So if Mario is fired for breaking into Wrigley Field, they will refund the tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying
why I trust
MLB
Game
tickets
Time.
with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. You're like halfway to Sox season tickets that way. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Lots of super chats to get to here. Thomas Salata with a $5 super chat says, is Oliver Moore going back to Minnesota?
Yes.
There you go. Asked and answered. That is correct. No need to talk about it more than that. Ralph with a $2 super chat
Ralph.
says Demidov's hockey IQ is what sets him apart.
Agreed. We need more Ralphs.
I think an undersold part of the Demidov thing too is his work ethic.
Okay.
Everyone raves about how he's going to go in a corner. He's going to go to the front of the net. He's going to be a intense hockey player. He's not just some perimeter guy that can snipe.
He's not a perimeter east-west dancer that just likes to, stick handle and whatnot. Like, he's a guy that can do all those things, but also works hard off the puck. So I think that is something that, like Ralph said, like that's going to set him apart. And being able to think the game like a Connor Bedard will help you succeed with Connor Bedard. Because as we saw for many years with Patrick Kane, he saw the game, thought the game differently than a lot of other guys. And, you couldn't just put anybody with him because it was difficult to kind of keep up with how he saw the game and played the game. And Bedard has some of those qualities too. Like, he can thread a pass to where 90% of guys wouldn't expect a pass to be there, or you don't think you're open, but he can get you open. So with a guy like Demidov, if he's able to see the game and think the game similarly, like putting those two together is going to be pretty nice.
A pair of super chats from Aiden, who seems to be Team Levshunov, says Demidov is a below-average skater by scouts, and every playoff team has top 6 guys with size.
Right.
Yes, but they have more than one pick.
And so will the Blackhawks when they get back to the playoffs.
Yes, they got 7 picks in the first 2
They're not
rounds.
going to field a 5'11" and under team. Like, they will add some size. They have some size coming, and they'll add some. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
To that comment from Aiden, a bunch of people are bringing up Corey Pronman's specific analysis of Ivan Demidov, saying his skating is below average. If you read the full report from Corey, this was from mid-April, his rankings. He's rating him as a below-average skater. But in the report, he even just says, like, his skating's not great, but everything else he does, it gets him over. And I feel like if you're going across the board, you look at, TSN, Sportsnet, The Athletic, Chris Peters at Flow Hockey, Elite Prospect, down the line of all the draft analysts and scouting analysts and all those communities. If your consensus is Ivan Demidov is going to be ranked number 2 or number 3, if the skating was that bad, that much of a worry, he wouldn't be there at every number 2 or number 3 slot. You look at a lot of mock drafts that have come out in the last 24 hours, a lot of those people are picking Ivan Demidov to go to the Blackhawks. Like, I feel like the skating problem, quote unquote, is getting a lot of attention, and I think there's a lot of like heels being dug in about Kyle Davidson says you need to be a great skater. It's not like, are we going to say Marcel is a great skater? No. Like, no, like he brought other attributes, and
Samuel Savoie was drafted for his skating ability.
Right. So
I think we can laser focus on a throwaway comment sometimes.
Like it is a consideration.
The point was they like guys
that they do focus on.
Right. If there's two guys with similar games and similar attributes, they'll pick the guy that's the better skater.
Sure.
But when you have a guy that's the number 2 forward in the entire draft, you could probably look at him and go, we could fix those little intricacies.
Even if he's an average skater at the NHL level.
85 to 90 points a year and is an average skater, no one's going to say, well, look at his skating. He stinks.
Right. Yeah, right.
It's,
So I understand people are going to say, like, oh, well, then that's the disqualifier. Like, I think already it feels like the skating problem is being overblown. You watch him play, and sure, it might not look like a perfect stride, but it gets the job done. It gets him where he needs to be to make plays, and that's the important part.
Yeah, and he will hopefully be playing on a team that has Oliver Moore and Frank Nazar and Kevin Korchinski, guys who are world-class skaters. And all of a sudden, it's not that big a deal anymore.
Right.
Windy City Hockey with a $5 super chat says, when I went to see Michigan versus Michigan State in St. Louis to see Nazar, Levshunov was super noticeable, and I really liked his play style.
He did have a really good game that day. Did he score a goal or set up a goal? He did something. I can't remember the exact
I feel like he scored, but I might be wrong.
He did great zone entry. He either made a great setup pass or scored. All those games kind of blend together now, but there was
that the Big Ten tournament game?
Yeah, I think it was the Big Ten championship game. But yeah, he was very noticeable in that game. For the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament games that Michigan State played in, I was basically laser focused on. I wasn't really watching anybody else. Every time he stepped on the ice, that's who I was watching, and he's very impressive. And again, will not be upset as much as I like Demidov. If the pick is Levshunov, I'm not going to be upset at all.
And a $100 super chat from Brad, who says, happy first birthday to the cutest little Blackhawks fan out there. 3 pounds 9 ounces when she was born. 2 months in a NICU. She's a fighter. Loves her hockey. Watches every game with her old man. Keep up the good work, boys. Go Hawks.
Right.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Brad. That's amazing.
Love that.
Thank you, Brad. We appreciate
what
that.
An amazing picture, too. Look how
That's
cute.
a wonderful
Look how
picture.
cute she is.
Very,
Awesome.
very cute.
That's
Good job,
great.
Brad.
Let's see. So if we're talking about
It was the championship game.
Was it the Big Ten championship
Yeah.
game? All right. He didn't score in that game.
All right.
But the week before, he had 2 assists. 2 primary assists the week before against Michigan. So
It was the game against. Yeah, that's right. Michigan didn't make the Big Ten title game. It was.
No, it was.
It was.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, because Michigan beat Michigan State. Yeah, so it was the. It was one of those Michigan games he made to play in. But anywho, we've got the next 8 weeks.
Not even that much.
7
or
weeks.
7
to
weeks, yeah.
debate this.
And we will.
But there was other Blackhawks news lost in the shuffle of the draft lottery, a news dump, as they like to say.
Yeah. Lukas Reichel, if you missed it, signed a 2-year contract extension with a $1.2 million cap hit. That is a prove-it deal for him and a prove-it deal from the Hawks. And, boy, I hope I would say by hopefully December they're looking at that like, ooh, that was a bargain.
That'd be nice, yeah.
Good job on that one, Kyle Davidson. Look, I don't think anyone can look at that and say bad deal. It's probably less than I expected him to sign for, which is the same thing he did with Alex Vlasic. Less than I expected him to sign for. So, again, so far so good on the things Kyle Davidson's had to do. Big offseason for him here. But I don't know. This makes all the sense in the world, and I hope Reichel figures it out. And in 2 years, they are working on a new long-term deal.
That would be the best case scenario. And if it doesn't work out, you've wasted nothing but time. Like it's not like you're giving him all this money.
Right.
It's literally no risk, all reward at this point.
Yeah.
Where you are in the rebuild, and he's on that same timeline too, that 2-year timeline that the veterans got.
Yeah.
That's obvious. Again, that's
decisions shall be made.
Kyle Davidson is telling you as clear as day.
Yeah.
When he thinks this team is going to be back in the playoffs. Maybe it gets there sooner because things go right, and Lukas Reichel turning into that 60-point guy as soon as this upcoming season, that can definitely get you further up in the standings than you're expecting.
If he's a 40-point guy, he does that.
Yeah. So I like the move. It's far too early to declare him a bust or a failure. Look at Lafreniere, the number 1 overall pick, is finally. He had 2 goals last night. He's finally. I'm not saying he's living up to being a number 1 overall pick. I don't think he's ever going to do that at this point. But he's proving the doubters wrong, myself included. A lot of people last year were like, "Oh, the Hawks should trade for him. The Rangers are giving up on him." A, no, they're not. And B, I was like, this guy hasn't done enough to impress me. But this season,
he's been really good.
So, and he's from what draft class?
Same draft.
The
class.
same draft class. So,
and
this
he's
is his
also
3rd
22.
full season.
Same as Reichel. He's 22.
And this is he's had 3 full NHL seasons now.
He went straight
Reichel's
to the
had
NHL.
one.
Yeah.
So let's give him some time. They're giving him that same window at the end of this 2 years, and he's still back and forth between Rockford and Chicago. Decision made.
Yeah.
And the cupboard, and then you'll have guys hopefully that are already here or just about ready to be here, where if he doesn't turn out to be what you're hoping he is, it really doesn't hurt you that much because you've got Oliver Moore here and Frank Nazar and possibly Demidov, and you're like, okay, cool. We'll just go out and get a replacement level player on the free agent market and we'll be fine.
Well, and even if he does pan out and you see Moore and Nazar and maybe Demidov pan out too, and you're like, well, look at this embarrassment of riches we have up front. Let's flip this for something we need.
Right. Yeah.
Let's flip it for a defenseman. Let's flip it for, a bottom 6 face-off winning, penalty killing stud, whatever the need might be at that time. Like, they're in really good position right now. Like, I don't know how you can look at what they've done, look at their contract situations, look at the prospects in the pipeline, look at what's about to come in a few weeks here at the draft in Vegas and say, I'm not so sure about this path. Like, they're on their way, man. Like, this team's going to be really good in short order here. It's just a matter of how good and how quickly, I think.
This is what Kyle Davidson had to say yesterday regarding Lukas Reichel's contract via Ben Pope. This quote says, quote, "It made sense to show some trust in the player by not necessarily putting him on just a qualifying offer, but also building in some potential upside for us, where if he has a really good season, we're not staring down the barrel of an arbitration case right after that." So, yeah, I mean, you give him 2 years. If he bounces back this upcoming season and has the year that I think we all were hoping that he would have this year, then great. Then you have another year of $1.2 million on the cap, and you have some runway to kind of figure out, like, okay, what can an extension look like? Or if he stinks out loud, then you're like, well, 1.2 for 1 year. Somebody want a reclamation project? We got takers for Lukas Reichel over here. It doesn't really put the Blackhawks in any bad position, and it gives Reichel a little bit of more than just a 1 year league minimum. Go prove you're not this bad of a player or whatever. It gives him a little bit more of that like cushion to feel secure, not get into his own head about like, if I don't score on this shift, what's going to happen every single game. Like he has a little bit of that cushion to be like, all right, like maybe I had a average game. Next one can be better, and it's not going to be dependent on what happens at the end of the season, or am I going to be going back to Rockford if I go 3 games without scoring a point or something like that. Like he can have a little bit of comfort as long as he's doing the little things right. Those big improvements should be there.
Yep, no doubt. And hey, watching the draft lottery last night was a little more stressful than we expected. It was kind of like, ooh. We thought it was like, no big deal. Whatever happens, happens. And as those cards started flipping, felt a little nervous. And when it was over, I needed to chill. So I had right for the official CHGO refrigerator, grabbed myself a nice cold Coors Light. Those mountains were very, very blue, so it was ready. And made the choice to chill because when you do that, you reach for a Coors Light. It is mountain cold refreshment. We love it. We've got it. Tons of it here. So if you're breaking into the office, there's lots of Coors Light right there waiting for you in the fridge.
Don't.
Along with months old leftovers.
Ooh, nice. Love that.
Yeah.
There's like salsa from the Bedard draft in there, I think.
Yeah. People don't quite understand
Also from the
that this is not.
Oh God.
We don't have a cleaning department.
Yeah. Well, anyway, just bypass that stuff and reach for a nice cold Coors Light because it is the perfect beer for a chill mindset. When those mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chill mindset, it's a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as your Colorado Rockies. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light and get Coors Light delivered straight to your door or office right now with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
And hey, while you're sitting back watching the game, cracking open a Coors Light to chill, why not open up that phone and open up that Circa Sportsbook app and place a wager on your favorite baseball team or favorite late-night hockey game going to double and triple overtime. Do it with Circa Sportsbook because it's the best. They got tight money line splits and a low hold model. Circa will strive to have games at a -110 split on their menu, unlike other sports books, which may have the same line as a -115 or -120. That's because Circa keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to those other books. And they have high limits and a very transparent customer service program. Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit you if you're taking too much of their money. Circa encourages bettors to download and explore all of the sports betting apps and see that you're always going to get the best lines from Circa, and you're going to get the best customer service because there are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other sports books who use chatbots. All aspects of the app are run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So what you want to do is download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. Sign up today and be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you may know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. Or you can text GAMB, G-A-M-B, to 833-234 or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Does the ad read actually have the word may twice in that sentence?
What?
Does it say may, someone you may know may have a problem? Does it really actually say that? Because you're the second person who's done that in the last 24 hours. And I'm like,
let me go back and see what I just read. Because my brain
I would
doesn't
like to get rid of
my
one of those
brain doesn't
mays.
really comprehend the words that are in front of me. I just read what's on the page.
my guy Cody
it
stumbled
does
on
not.
that
If
one.
you or someone you know may have a problem with
Well,
gambling.
it's funny because
So there you go.
Cody had the same thing last night, and he was totally tripping on it. I'm like, yeah, that shouldn't say may in both spots there. It
I
is
wasn't the
month of May.
smartest kid in school.
That's okay.
So I got
same.
most of the words right.
Great haircut, though. Look at that.
Thank you.
Looking good.
Appreciate it.
Nice.
Shout out to Gio.
Gia?
Gio.
Gio.
My
okay.
barber.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right, we got mailbag questions, right?
What?
Yeah.
We do.
Oh.
We didn't finish it.
How
on
many we
Monday.
got?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Ooh,
of
let's
them.
get to
Are
them.
any of them about Demidov or Levshunov that we could cut right away? Or Lukas
I
Reichel?
think so.
Or Mac on
I
Celebrini.
think so.
Yeah.
Let's start with draft questions here. These are from Twitter. This is from Todd Welter
Todd.
at Todd J Dub, and Todd asks, "Who is the early sleeper pick at number 20 for the Hawks?"
I mean, there's a lot of options. I said yesterday 2 guys that I would love if they're still there, but may not get there are Michael Bradsig-Nygaard, power forward type of guy playing in Sweden, and Liam Greentree, another power forward type of guy. If either of those guys are available at 20, I would love it. 2 others that I think fit the mold of like the kind of forward that the Blackhawks like. Chicago Steel alumni and going to University of Michigan, Michael Haig, I think is a guy that can do that. He's kind of a scoring threat forward who does a little bit of everything, good size, good speed. And then Andrew Basha, who is teammates with Caden Lindstrom in Medicine Hat. He's another guy that is got decent size, good speed, down the middle, good creativity, nice two-way forward. A guy that kind of does a little bit of everything good, not anything elite, but he's one of those guys that like you could plug and play and say, yeah, I could see him playing in a second line, third line role and being effective as at the NHL level. So those are 4 names I'll throw out there and say any of those 4, I'm on board with.
Every time you say good speed, I just think of the movie The Rock with, of course, my guy, Sean Connery. Good speed.
Good speed.
I like Haig a lot. I'm not convinced he's still going to be there at 20, but you never know. If you're worried about, they need size, there's 2 guys that project around that 20 pick that would satisfy you. So maybe these are your sleeper picks. You have Adam Jeko, 6'5", 197-pound center, plays with the Edmonton Oil Kings.
Got to get some beef on those bones.
And then you have Dean Letourneau, who is a 6'6", 210 center, playing at St. Andrews College.
Learning more about Dean Letourneau.
Is it Mary Kay's son?
Was I going to say the same joke?
Not spelled the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is spelled the Canadian way.
Learning more about him made me just so excited. If he slipped through, late second round, that would be wonderful because he is freaking huge. He's a monster. Put up 2 points per game in the prep world, which is, you love a guy that's that big, be able to do that. Net front presence, like just getting him up in the competition sphere, up his competition to see how it translates would be great. But yeah, Letourneau would be that'd be size and skill and someone who can put the puck in the net. I'd love it.
I look at a guy you mentioned yesterday too, Mario, Liam Greentree from Windsor with 90 points in 64 games last year, 6'3", 211. There's the size you're looking for.
Yeah.
Potential top 6.
And that was
could be available right there.
That was a Windsor Spitfires team that even though he put up 90+ points, they finished last in their division.
Oh,
he was the only person.
He was a -14, so never mind.
He was the only person on that team that could do anything. And yeah, like it was a rough season for Windsor, but Greentree, man, he really stood out.
Well, we got some more Super Chats to get to, and they trump the mailbags because they paid for them.
Yes.
Here's another $5 from Aiden. I'm a Lidstrom fan. His blend of skill with size and speed is something I think this team needs. To me, he is the best player available with the highest floor and upside. Okay.
I agree with that first statement. We can debate on the second one, but thank you for the Super Chat.
Yeah, I think that if we were talking 3 or 4, you could probably have him in that conversation and look like.
Lidstrom's the only guy that you could convince me to enter the conversation with
because of the size,
as a forward. Yeah.
He's the only guy you can try really hard to where I can go squint my eyes and go, okay, that might not be terrible at 2. 3 or 4.
I could be talking into that.
And you know what? There is a world in which, if you go Bedard, Demidov, you say, yeah, pair them together. There's a world in which you could say if you go Lindstrom at 2, you could say, okay, pair him and Bedard together, because Lindstrom is a guy that plays center, has the size to do it. Bedard, we're not, I guess, 100% sold he's going to be an NHL center his entire career.
Right.
You could play him at wing, Lindstrom at center, and you have someone that does that kind of power forward, two-way game, has the size down the middle that the Blackhawks lack, and then you got Bedard on the wing.
And look, if they had one yesterday and it was Celebrini, I mean,
you could do that
you'd probably be looking at Bedard on the wing and Celebrini at center.
Yeah.
He's only 6 foot.
Well, forget it.
You can't win with
You know what
like
I know about 18-year-olds is that's when they stop growing.
I stopped when I was 13, vertically at least. Ralph with the $5 super chat says Hawks need to pick the player with the fastest speed and the highest projected plus minus. They're the only stats that matter. Thank you, Ralph. And $20 from Dev says the skating problem with Demidov is his speed. His edge work is excellent, but his execution of it doesn't translate to the NHL. Dev says he tracked him with a top speed of 20.3 miles per hour, which is 2.07 miles per hour slower than the NHL average.
The NHL average top speed is 22 miles per hour.
I don't know.
That seems
high.
It's also very rare that guys are skating at top speed.
Right.
It's not a sprint.
What was Jason Dickinson's top speed?
3,000 miles an hour. Jinx.
That was weird.
Get out of my head, Zawaski.
Nathan McKinnon. Yeah. I mean, this is what these things are about, right? Like, in the NFL, you see draft combines like, well, that guy had a 4. This guy jumped out of his swimming pool. Great. Great. Look, I think Oliver Moore is going to be a great pick, and he was undoubtedly the greatest skater in the draft last year, and he kept falling and falling and falling and falling in the draft. This game is not played at maximum speed for 60 minutes. It's just not. If you're able to manipulate defenses with your hockey IQ, if you're able to stick handle through a checker, even Connor Bedard is not the fastest skater in the world. It's something that he said he needs to work on. He's a better skater coming out than Demidov was, according to all the scouting reports. But again, he's 18 years old. He's never had access to NHL or even North American training opportunities. He's going to become a better skater. He's going to work with the best trainers and skating coaches in the world. And if it's a massive problem, which clearly it's not, because, like we said, he's pretty much a consensus number 2, it's going to be fine. You
don't need to be the fastest guy in the world to score power play goals.
Correct.
Right. You don't.
Alex Ovechkin is not super fast.
You don't take a slap shot at 22 miles per hour.
No.
Moving at 22 miles per hour. My slap
I
shot's
do.
about 22 miles per hour. Yeah.
Fine. He could be the guy that scores by trailing the play every time.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Lots of good. I mean, look, this is going to be the conversation we have. And,
we didn't have this debate at all last year. Maybe
fun
for the 19 pick, but that's harder to debate because you don't know who's there.
Right.
We know who's available at number 2.
Exactly. Alberto Vitali with a mailbag question. Law?
Yes. Oh,
to the microphone.
Okay. Yes, from Twitter, Alberto Vitale. With the Blackhawks likely being unable to use all their picks over the next 3 years, do you think it's worth it to trade some away this summer to get veterans that insulate this team in return? Or would you rather see the team package and trade up in the draft? Ooh.
So, I mean, they can use all their drafts. It's do they draft picks? It's do they want to? Is more of the
He
question.
said, was it last year when he said it? We're almost getting to the point where we have too many.
Yeah.
Something along
you
those
literally
lines.
can only have 90 players in your
Right,
organization.
yeah,
They can't just keep drafting 10 guys per year and just load up.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And both of those in the question from Alberta are viable options. We could see one or both of those scenarios play out this year or next year.
Yeah.
You have assets to go out, whether they're draft picks or the guys you draft with those draft picks. You have the assets to go out and fill the holes that you were unable to get in the draft.
Right.
You're building this the proper way.
Yeah.
You're giving yourselves as many scratch-off tickets as you can, and you can trade some of those scratch-off tickets for tickets that have already won.
Yep. A couple more super chats here.
I liked this comment earlier in
Yeah.
the chat from Steven about he says, to me, I think you take Demidov and try like hell to use that Tampa pick to get back into the top 10 for one of the gluttony of demons.
You could.
A definite scenario.
Yeah, you could do that.
Nobody wanted. They were trying to trade up last year to get Oliver Moore,
Yeah,
and
the willingness is documented.
Yeah, and every other team was very set in like we want this draft to fall to us.
There was rumors that the Nashville Predators were dangling Askarov, the stud goalie prospect, out there to move up so they could make a big pick in their home arena. There were reports from trusted sources that he was being dangled out there, and people were even like, nope, not trading this pick. Wow. This year's going to be different. I think you'll see more people think about it.
It would be more fun from a covering the draft aspect of
it is definitely
let's have a day one trade.
It's definitely an option, and I would not be shocked to see it happen at some point.
Yeah, and you could say, you take the 20 pick from Tampa and maybe
your second round picks,
or maybe Toronto's next year where you don't know where it is, but you just say, hey, it's a first round pick. And
there's someone you love,
and you move up to 10 and get
if there's
Bouillon or
if
something.
there's a defenseman you love that's available in that 10 to 14 range, you talk to one of those teams, you say we'll give you 20 and we'll give you one of our second round picks this year and a third round pick next year to move up.
Nothing is off the table.
Let's friggin' go.
That's why you have these assets.
You have the flexibility to do that.
Yep. All right, super chat time. Luke with a $2 super chat says, you think the Hawks could trade up to 1 at what cost? I mean,
no,
of course it would be a massive cost, but no, I don't think San Jose is moving off
Mike
that pick for
Brewer's
anything
first thing he's
reasonable.
going to ask for, Connor Bedard.
Yeah. The trade is 1 for 1.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Sharks aren't trading
you
that
wouldn't
pick
do that.
because if there is a franchise that needs a Macklin Celebrini more, I don't know of
and
one.
Earned it this year.
And when you think of the connection, I read today that Macklin Celebrini, his dad is a trainer for the Golden State Warriors. He said he's going to live at home with his parents.
Well, and
while
he
playing.
played for the Junior Sharks.
The Junior Sharks,
as
yes.
a young,
he was born in British Columbia,
guy.
but he is, a Northern California
from
kid.
California-ish.
It's too perfect of a fit. The PR alone they're not trading it.
Yeah, no. I know we haven't heard it. At least I haven't. But I'm sure season ticket sales, just like last year for the Hawks, season ticket sales for the Sharks have probably increased in the last 24 hours.
And when was the last time somebody traded the number 1 overall pick? And has it ever happened? I don't even recall.
Without making a pick?
Right. When was the last time before the draft an NHL team traded away the number 1 pick? I don't recall it ever happening.
A good question. I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know.
I can't think of one. I know obviously the Eric Lindros thing,
situation, yeah.
But that was trading the player a year later because he wasn't going to sign with you.
Right,
That wasn't trading away the pick. I don't ever remember that happening. It rarely ever happens in any sport. I don't recall one in hockey.
So I guess maybe it's not technically the same situation, but didn't the Hawks win the draft lottery in the Sedin year, but they could only move up to number 4 or something like that? They only moved up to like number 3 or 4. So then they made a trade to help Vancouver get to number 2
They
or something
facilitate.
like
They
that.
were
It was
part
something
of that.
like that.
It's very complicated.
So they didn't have the number 1 pick.
Our
but,
guy AJ says the Panthers traded number 1 2 years in a row, 02 and 03.
Traded?
I'll have to look that up. But, yeah, it doesn't happen. But the point is, even if that is the case, that doesn't happen very often where they traded from Florida. That's when Rick Nash got drafted by Columbus.
In 02.
And they went to 3.
And picked Jay Bomeister.
Jay Bomeister. And so that happened.
So that's a choice.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Rick Nash.
Me too.
Hindsight. And then the next year, they traded with Pittsburgh. They traded out of getting Marc-Andre Fleury to getting Nathan Horton.
Oof, boy, two awful effing trades right there.
Who was the ad wizard who signed off on that one?
Imagine having Rick Nash and Marc-Andre Fleury on the same team
In Florida in the early 2000s?
Oh, my God.
Woof.
Hockey would be much different.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What-
So, yes, don't trade the number one
don't
pick.
do that.
Learn from the Panthers' mistakes.
Yes.
Don't do it.
Oy.
Another $5 from Dev says NHL Edge has the average top speed by forwards.
Average top speed.
Yes,
Okay.
at 22.1 miles per
Sure,
hour.
sure.
Demidov's speed, though, his mechanics are very fixable, I do want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
a
So
team.
if his top speed is not to the NHL average, sure. But as we were kind of making the point, like the amount of time you're playing at your top speed is so small that it is 2 miles an hour slower at your top speed compared to the NHL average a concern. Yeah, you can make it a concern, but at 18 years old, if your top speed is 20 miles an hour and you're not up to speed at the NHL average of men, there's some growing and getting physically stronger that can make that difference, and mechanically too can make a difference.
All right.
Before we get to the next mailbag question, isn't Ivan Demidov wear 91? Is that right? Is that the number
He
he's been
wore
wearing?
number 11.
11.
With
Okay,
his,
well, never mind that
Russian
little
team.
interesting tidbit. But we only have 91 likes at this point, so can we please do a like spike?
Steven
in
Stamkos.
Three,
You know
Yeah,
what?
come on now.
I haven't
two,
liked it yet. Sorry. My bad.
one.
Like Spike.
Like
Boom.
Spike.
I don't want to read the next question until we get over 100. Can we?
Ooh,
wow.
you're holding out, huh?
We have
mean, come
almost
on,
300
everyone.
people watching. The
Holding
math
for
don't
ransom.
jive.
Please.
The math don't
Please.
jive.
Speaking of 91, I'm Stamkos Bedard Demidov.
He does have 91 on in this picture.
Yeah, that's what I thought in the.
thumbnail.
Yeah.
Is it
That-
from?
that he-
is that his KHL number?
Yeah,
not
yeah.
his
in-
MHL. Because
Yes.
the highlights that I saw today
That might be from the KHL because I don't.
from the MHL playoffs, he was wearing 11.
Yeah, I don't. That's
Okay.
That picture's probably from the KHL because there are not a lot of MHL photography pictures out there.
I would
Yes.
say so. Yeah,
I was
a
on
little
a
harder to find.
that photo may or may not be from a website that I had to translate from Russian to English. Anyways,
Check
Oh,
your
we hit it.
computer
We're
for
at
bugs.
Thank you.
107. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice
for
job.
There we go.
like
Nice.
Nice spike.
Nice.
Let's
spike.
go back to the mailbag.
spike.
And this comes from Colin at HockeyFan98. Again, with Davidson wanting to improve the roster, do you think anyone on expiring deals this coming season could be moved in the offseason, i.e. Athanasiou, Donato, Hall? That way, room could be made for better free agents / guys ready to make the jump to the NHL from
Are
Rockford.
those three guys? Donato's probably the only one that actually has a market available for him. Athanasiou hurt most of last year. Has never really had the season you would think he could. Taylor Hall.
I mean, for
hurt
Hall
all
and
last
Yeah, he's
Athanasiou
coming off an
getting
ACL.
hurt, that didn't help their
too
cases.
too much too many question marks with those two guys and their health.
Yeah.
Donato, I think we had a question similar to this on Monday. Donato is probably the only established veteran on the roster that is tradable right now. At least that they want to trade. Not saying they want to trade, but
and
they
that's
are
saying that
willing
you
to
would
trade.
want to.
Right.
And that
You're not
depends
trading
on what
Dickinson. You're not trading Foligno.
Yeah. And they got multiple years too still.
Right. You didn't sign him for 2 years to trade him this offseason. So
no.
I don't think there's a market for Athanasiou. I don't think there's a market for Taylor Hall. If there was going to be a market for one of those guys, it would be Donato. That would be the one guy I think.
That's what I would think.
When you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, Ryan Donato's style fits third,
And-
fourth line for playoff hockey.
And I think, the idea going into next season about being better and not having another year like this, that would, require a Taylor Hall and a Andreas Athanasiou to be healthy for the
Yes.
majority or
Yeah.
all of the season. So I think if you would have had those guys for 70-plus games last year, we might not have been second to last in the league. It might have been a little bit different. So, no, I don't think that they're looking to get rid of either of those guys. I think those two specifically are in the plans for this year and maybe beyond. Who knows? But Donato, yeah, I think he's the kind of guy that plays that game that contenders look for in the bottom six. And he's versatile. He saw him play with Connor Bedard at moments this year, playing in the top 6, bottom 6, power play, penalty kill. He's kind of played everywhere last year, and he has the ability to do that. Is he a star? No. But is he a guy that's very useful? Yes.
By the way, there's spots available on this roster. It's not like there's a logjam right now, and you've got Athanasiou, Foligno, Dickinson, Kurashev, Donato, Blackwell's a free agent, Bedard, Nazar, Slaggert on the roster, Taylor Hall as well. So if you're assuming all those guys make it, which is a big assumption because you don't know about Nazar, you don't know what their thoughts are about Slaggert. It feels like Slaggert's going to be here, but you never know. There's 3 forward spots open right there.
At least, yeah.
At least 3. So there is room for them to get better and not have to dispatch all these guys. You're probably not going to qualify Taylor Radish. Same with Joey. Maybe you sign Joey Anderson to a 2-way deal if he wants. I don't know. He probably feels like an NHL player, right?
Yeah.
So they might not qualify him either. So
Luke Richardson loves him.
there's going to be, Luke loves him, but you could find those guys. He loves Jared Tenorti too, and he'll be gone. So don't freak out. And I think now, if you're talking about moving Donato or Athanasiou, or I don't think Hall's moving, you're better off waiting till the deadline. And if you have, or during the season, because if you have these kids come and you're like, okay, Frank Nazar is ready.
Yeah.
He lit it up in the preseason. We gave him a handful of games, and we are not sending him to Rockford. There's no reason to do it. And Landon Slaggert's a full-timer, and you're starting to look at, and we also brought in like 1 or 2 free agents up front, and now you've got a logjam, then you make the move to a team that has an injury problem. Like, just look at how desperate the Blackhawks got. And had Ryan Donato been available when all those guys went down, the Hawks probably would have traded for him.
Well, and BJD says for what, a 5th? Like, yeah, he offers you a lot more value than a 5th-round draft pick will.
Yeah.
And you're right about the trade deadline. A guy like Ryan Donato could probably get you a 3rd or 4th.
Get you something
at the deadline.
Yeah.
If that's a guy that a team needs.
Plus, he'll be an expiring deal at that point.
Right.
So
and very affordable.
Yeah, super affordable.
That's the type of guy that maybe you want to do Ryan Donato a solid and be like, okay, you've been an awesome guy here for a year and a half. We're going to trade you to a contender.
Right.
Or maybe the Blackhawks at the trade deadline are a team that's 6 points out of a wild card to that. We're not going to subtract much this year, even though they didn't really subtract a whole lot last year.
Right.
Maybe they stand pat because they're like, we're going to reward the guys in the room to
fight
make a push.
Yeah.
You know?
And guys always get hurt.
Right.
Keep that in mind, too. You don't want to be stripped to the studs before you even start. Sure. All right, another one here in the mailbag.
Back to the mailbag. This is Brad. Been listening to the podcast on bringing in a veteran defenseman. Why not have a 3rd pair of Del Mastro and Kaiser and rotate the veteran D in with them? Murphy is bound to get hurt again.
Sure.
Okay.
I wouldn't hate that strategy. Yeah. I think they, you had Jacob Megna playing probably more than he should have been because Connor Murphy was hurt. Jared Tenorti, same thing. You look, I remembered him. You had Nikita Zaitsev.
Yes.
This past year, he was on the team and he played
there.
games.
He was
Had a stick and everything.
He was serviceable at times.
So yeah, I mean, you could go out there and get a guy that, if you want to rotate in and out as a 7th defenseman, you could do that. You could do that for very cheap, and it's not really going to hurt you.
Bring back Caleb Jones, make everybody happy.
Sure.
But if they're looking to make a jump next year,
yeah, if you're looking,
you're not going to have a raw 3rd pair.
Yeah,
like
if you're looking to push, I don't think unless they prove with their play like we are NHL defensemen, I don't think if you're looking to push, you're going to have, Kaiser and Del Mastro and Korchinski all together playing at the same time. I think there's going to be roster competition because of who Kyle Davidson may bring in as either a trade or a free agency to kind of bolster that group. And if you go into the year with, let's say, looking to the crystal ball, Seth Jones, Alex Vlasic, Connor Murphy, Kevin Korchinski, that's your top 4. And then you have a Chris Tanev. Throw him in there. Maybe that knocks down Murphy down to the 3rd pair.
Yeah,
then you have Ethan Del Mastro and
Kaiser
and Nolan Allen, all in that mix. I don't know. I think if you have 5 guys on this defensive group that you say they're locked into the NHL roster, that's a good thing to have rather than just 4.
Is this the last one?
Yes, this is
Let's
our
do it.
last question from this week's mailbag. Thanks, everyone who took time to write in. This is from Scott, Iowa 23. And Scott asks, what is a saying you like to try and live by? My mother gave me a little angel clip for my car that reads, quote, never drive faster than your guardian angel can fly, end
that's
quote.
Don't be an
Guys?
idiot. Changed my life.
Those are good words to live by. I actually have that phrase tattooed on my arm. No, not that phrase, but the phrase that means a lot to me. Let's live that long. That's what my dad always said. So that's part of my tattoo tribute to my father.
I like that.
That was his answer for everything. On Tuesday, if you ask him, hey, what time we going to grandma's for dinner on Saturday? I don't know. Let's live that long. Take it one day at a time. Don't get wrapped up in the future.
I like that.
Live in the now.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a slogan so much as just, I know be yourself just sounds very
Matt
Be,
Nagy.
like, be you.
run of the mill. Yeah, be you. But I
So
think
mid.
it's one of the things that drives me crazy, especially in this business, is people that say things for a reaction and don't say things that they mean. It is
Who
a
does that?
scourge.
Why would you take a shot at Carm like that?
I did not take a shot at Carm.
You said out loud what we were all thinking.
That is not who I was thinking of. But my whole thing is and I've said this forever. And I say this to my daughter, if you always tell the truth, you'll never get caught in a lie, right? I think just honesty about who you are, how you feel, what happened. If you make a mistake, own it, say so. I don't know. I think just being true to yourself is important. I don't have a clever. I'll also say live, laugh, love. That's my.
That was in our Pittsburgh.
I still have that
Airbnb.
photo. Yeah, I love that.
That was live, laugh, blood in our Pittsburgh Airbnb.
That's true.
I always like I saw this on Twitter a while ago. Somebody said at my funeral, I want my coffin to have a live, life, love sign on it, but somebody cross out the live part.
Oops, that's over. I just think honesty is the best policy. And as a youngster, I just kind of always would little white lie, and then a little white lie becomes a massive lie because you have to keep doubling down to hide.
yeah.
Just be honest. Just if someone says yes, I made a mistake, or yes, I was wrong, I'm sorry. What can you say?
Right.
How can you argue with that person, right? So
Oh, don't worry. People still do.
yeah, I know they do, but who cares about them?
My high school yearbook quote was from Ferris Bueller. It was stop and look around once. Life moves fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you might miss it.
Yeah.
And as corny as that might be,
It's true.
I love that movie and I love that quote.
As you get older, you realize how true that is.
Yes.
My yearbook quote was not that inspirational.
Was suck it?
No,
With a DX
it was my favorite part of my favorite scene from the movie Chasing Amy. What's a Nubian was my senior yearbook quote. One for the ages.
There you go.
There you go.
There
That's
it
from
is.
our
Live,
Pittsburgh
laugh, and
vlog.
love.
God, that feels like 10 years ago that happened.
What a vlog that was.
And
Good
yet
vlog.
it was just like it was yesterday.
Mario had to take that picture because his shoes were stuck to the floor.
Yeah, I was stuck
He
there.
couldn't move.
I couldn't move.
He
Yeah.
had to wait for us to wake up and help him out of his shoes.
That was me on my 3 hours of sleep because kept getting random clumps of hair poking me in the face from my bed sheets.
Hopefully Vegas will be better.
I hope so.
We'll be in an established hotel.
Circus.
Yeah.
Sleep with the
As
elephants.
long as it's not the one I stayed at.
Hey, Circus Sportsbook
Earlier
and
this year.
Casino.
As long as we're there.
We read your ads. You could
Yeah.
house our butts.
Yes.
Yes.
And the rest of us.
Yeah.
Not just our butts.
And I know everyone cares what my saying is. I don't have one. I just like to.
Don't have one?
No, maybe I should. I feel like that might
help.
be good for me.
More caffeine? Is that your...
No
No,
ketchup.
no,
That's
no.
yours. No ketchup.
I mean, that's a good
Don't talk to me before I had my coffee.
And before we put the bow on this episode, our poll, Ivan Demidov, 77%
77. Wow.
of the 274 votes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he is probably the front runner right now. As we talk to our scouting analysts and draft friends,
Starting as soon as
starting tomorrow with Chris Peters of Flow Hockey. Hey, maybe Levshunov sounds a lot better by this time next month.
I'm sure.
Who knows?
I'm sure I'll flip and flop about
Yeah.
13 times between now and draft night.
Yeah. By the way, before we wrap up, we want to mention big time Chicago music scene, punk music scene icon, Steve Albini, passed away today. If you don't know who Steve Albini is, I will direct you to the Google machine.
You've heard albums he's
yeah,
produced,
I mean, his fingerprints are all over meaningful albums.
He
the
basically
Pixies, Urge Overkill,
Nirvana.
Veruca Salt. Look up his letter to Nirvana about In Utero. It is fantastic. Like, he basically pitches them like, this is what you guys need to do to make a great record. If it takes more than a week, someone's fucking up. It's great.
Yeah.
I was able to meet Steve Albini. He is a friend of Matt Spiegel's.
He's been on the score a lot.
Yeah, he's a big poker player, and that's how Spiegel knows him. And
seems like a good dude.
He was awesome. And I was very nervous to meet him because I love hockey, I love sports, but music to me is number one. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is a musical god walking these doors, and he could not have been more down to earth, more kind. And I also direct people earlier this year, late last year, Conan O'Brien had Steve Albini, Chris Novoselic, and Dave Grohl on to talk about Kurt Cobain and the making of In Utero, and it was incredible. It is, and everyone knows Conan O'Brien's a great interviewer who lets the subjects take over and do the show. Go find that. I actually tweeted the link to that today if you want to look for it. But Steve Albini is an absolute icon, especially to the Chicago music scene. He was also on the Foo Fighters documentary Sonic Highways on the Chicago episode.
Yeah, I mean, this guy produced...
Engineered. He did not like the term produced.
Whatever. He was behind...
There you go.
About 75% of the CDs in my high school collection. I mean, Nirvana, the Pixies, the Breeders, Mogwai, the Jesus Lizard, PJ Harvey, Superchunk, Cheap Trick. Just a handful of the bands. Jawbreaker, one of my favorite bands ever. When Jimmy Page and Robert Plant got back together to make the Page Plant record, who'd they call? Steve Albini. I mean, the dude was as good as they get. And a Chicago legend. Some of his...
and
Big Black was a great band. Shellac, who I guess has got an album coming out
they
came out.
They were planning to tour this summer.
So
I have multiple friends who were just saying how they were planning to get tickets.
61 is far too young, but thanks to a music icon, not only in this city but worldwide. When you think about the finishing touches, he put on so many great records.
Yeah. If you don't know about Steve Albini, now you do. Look it up. It's just crazy. And Dale Shytown says, I was fortunate enough to record with Albini in the late 90s. He's opinionated, but a really nice, down-to-earth guy. And look, if you want your album engineered and you want someone that's going to be no BS and not just tell lies to you, that's the guy you hired. And he's awesome. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. Super happy to meet him. And rest in peace to a Chicago icon.
And the most unassuming studio. The studio space is like, you just drive by, you have no idea that it's like amazing albums have been recorded inside it. I think it's on Diversity or maybe Belmont. I forget which one it was. But like, you just go by and there's an E on the door.
Yeah.
But there's just it's not like there's no windows, just a brick building. Yeah.
All right. Rest in peace, Steve Albini. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow at 2:30 with Chris Peters. Should be a good show.
And a Top 10 Thursday.
Top 10 Thursday. Let's go. We'll talk to you then, 2:30 tomorrow on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.